Hello guys, it's Chummaster. Time to another Beyblade video. This time we have a Beyblade discussion. So, BU just ended. The Core just came out for January. No news for Beyblade. I'm pretty sure Burst is over at this point. So I want to take a look back here about BU. I will do a whole Burst video in general in a couple months, just to be sure it's, done. But, I think BU's over now. So, just want to make this video kind of talking about BU, how good it was. So there's going to be 4 sections of this video. Section 1 will probably be the longest. That's going to be going over every mainline bay, and just kind of talking about them a little bit, how good I think that they were. Not competitively, thematically. So if a part is bad, like competitively, like Yard Dash for example, and I say it was a good part, I don't mean that competitively, I just mean thematically it made sense, right? So that's how I'm going to be judging these, so just don't don't take that part too seriously for competitive stuff, because, like, obviously, yeah, some parts are just bad competitively, but if they make sense, that's what I'm going off of here. And as far as mainline bays go, you could argue there's anywhere between 10 and 12. I'm going over 12, just to be sure. I don't want to skip out on 2 of them. I'll note those 2 when we get to them. The second part of this video, we'll just be talking about how good BU is as a whole. After talking about all the mainline ones, how good is it? And then the third part is just kind of how does it extend DB? Does it, do its job with extending DB properly? And then finally it will be talking about how good BU was kind of as an end to Burst. So, yeah, that'll be fun. So let's go and get into these mainline bays here. Alright, our first bay might be the weirdest one, and that is Divine Belial. I do have it in its ultimate gear form right now. So let's go and talk about Belial. Divine Belial has to be the weirdest for me because when it first came out, I did not like this thing at all. I thought it was completely unnecessary. Nexus as a disc being reused was sensible, I would say. 3 armor being reused, sure, it was getting replaced anyway. Didn't matter that much. I think it made more sense than 2, so yeah, sure, fine with me. And then, the other parts. Adventure just felt like a retool of Venture. Sure, but it just felt weird to me. Divine sucked, it was pretty bad, and yeah, no, it was worse with F-Gear, terrible on its own. And then, Belial 2 was just like, why? Why was there no Belial 3? And they did make Belial 3 eventually, that's what I have on this Belial, but the Belial 2 is a recolor, but they added a set of BU locks, as well as a stronger burst stopper. And then with Belial 3, they kept those ideas of Belial 2, but just gave it kind of the redesign, as well as, the stronger teeth. So, the Belial 2 we got with Divine was already like halfway to Belial 3. I don't know why they didn't just make that from the start. It was just a very underwhelming release. Even with the perfect gear set, it just felt pretty meh. But as time went on with the gears, I think D gear was a pretty nice alternative to S gear, and then A gear, well, I'd say Dynamite plus F was still kind of the best blade, kind of just the coolest as well, but like, Divine plus A makes more sense for attack, and Belial is supposed to be an attack type, so I kind of like Divine plus A a lot. H gear saved this thing, I think. H gear is a great part. It made this bay look great. It's such a cool part, honestly. I like how it's 2 parts, and it represents both Hyperion and Helios. Also, at the same time, we got Belial 3, which really just brought this whole thing together way better. And then, of course, ending off with the VS gear, which I think just works perfectly for this thing. So overall, I think Divine Belial, from the start, was kind of just super unnecessary and annoying to get a 3rd Belial. But it ended up being one of my favorite bays in all of DB. I'd almost argue just in general. I think it's a really great bay. I feel like my problem lies more with having 3 Belials, and I think Dangerous is the most unnecessary of the bunch. It deviates the most from everything else, and it didn't even get its own gear set. This did. I feel like it's more, worthwhile because it has its own gear set. Dangerous didn't need to happen. They probably just wanted, another evolution for the anime and manga and stuff. But here's the thing, we already had all the gears. I think that was enough of an evolution for DB. They could have just made a second one for BU. I don't think we need a Dangerous. So my problem, yeah, it's more with Dangerous Belial, not Divine, and Any problem with Divine is just that it's a third Belial, or I did not like the original version of it. So, looking at it like this on its own, pretty great bay, honestly. Next up, Chain Kirbyus. This one, I like Chain Kirbyus a lot, honestly. It's a really nice Kirbyus. I think that the design mostly just references Kirbyus and Kaiser Kirbyus, if you can like notice, like kind of just the general shape underneath everything. It just references that. So I guess Fortress, I feel like falls kind of in a at least sort of similar vein to like Central or Limited or something. And then Yard Dash, thematically based on like defense, it works fine. I think these are both good parts for a Kirbyus release. But the layer, so getting 6 as the armor makes sense. I think, I mean, Kaiser Kirbyus had kind of the 6-sided thing going on. I just think like with the whole chains, the movable chains in here, there's 6 of them. Makes sense. The chain blade's definitely based on the first two. Kirbyus and Kaiser Kirbyus, just the shape. And kind of the color here is more of a magenta. We kind of like those pink-ish stickers on the original Kirbyus. I think, makes sense to kind of include more of that on this one. And I think the most interesting design element here actually is based on the core. Because, well, I think the Kirbyus core is kind of a mix of, original and Kaiser Kirbyus. And the chains are just referencing, Kirbyus chains. It's this middle part here that's the most interesting part. Because it's like kind of a red. Almost a little bit like red-orange, I would say. And there was a little bit of red and definitely some orange on Guardian Kirbyus, and also there was that little kind of red-orange part on Atomic from Hazard Kirbyus. Which, that's definitely where this comes from, is Guardian and Hazard. And I would argue both of their, gimmicks were based on kind of like burst resistance. And they used like kind of the one slight reference we get of Guardian and Hazard is for the rubber, for the burst stoppers. I might be stretching here, but if that's, I just like to interpret it like that, because it's really cool to just think, Guardian and Hazard weren't that great. They didn't reference them much here, but the little bit they did do was probably the best thing they could have done. Which I like a lot. I just think it's a nice reference there. Also, Tact in GT was used for defense, and I think including it again for something like Chain with, all the chains, obviously, works well. I think Kirbyus is, in my opinion, the best BU evolution. As like an evolution, anyway. I'm also biased. I like Kirbyus a lot, and I was waiting for it to come back for so many years. It's a really good bay, though. I think they did a great job on bringing back Kirbyus. Opposite of that, Gatling Dragon. What happened here? So, the Dragon Core being a bound core, that's fine. 10 armor, it's kind of like a defensive armor, and I think for being kind of the heavy attack type, it works fine. The Gatling Blade, I don't like it this much. I just don't like this blade. So, like, it has the thing where these, like, push in like this. These can slide out. It's kind of like a weird gimmick. I don't care for this that much. I don't think this was a great gimmick. Tempest had something similar. Not a fan of Tempest's gimmick either, but I think Tempest, it just worked a little bit better on Tempest, I think. I think they would have shown a little bit further with a gimmick like this to make it more of an oval, or give it crazier contact points or something. Or just make a different gimmick. Throw metal on the blade, no one would blame you. I don't know. This layer I think is overall still like good, but I think the gimmick is still a little lackluster. Parts though, Charge Metal Dash, why? Just go back to Charge. Just make Charge Dash, or even High Charge Dash. Metal Charge, Charge Metal, my bad, not Metal Charge. Charge Metal sucks. They at least made it a Dash version, but it's still not a good part either. I don't think many people would have cared if we just went back to normal Charge. But I get where they're coming from here, so I guess it makes some sense. Even if I don't like it that much, I just like Charge better in general as like a part, not even just competitively. So overall, Gatling Dragon is pretty but the Karma Disc, this makes no sense as a Dragon Disc at all. It's a very small disc and one of the lightest in the game. This had no business being a Dragon Disc. Dragon should have gotten like literally anything else, maybe aside from like Tapered or Legacy. But even Taper, just in appearance, would have made a little bit more sense. It's like the only attack type I could understand having Tapered. Legacy would have still been a little bit awkward. It feels kind of thin. I don't imagine they want to do Nexus, so like, I think anything else aside from those few discs, you know, like Fortress, um, Giga, Over, again, maybe Tapered, or just, you know, a new disc. Yeah, I don't. Karma was an L on this thing. I think overall they just didn't care enough about Dragon, and it kind of shows. Aside from the disc, though, at least it's like okay. It's just that disc choice really sucks. All right, controversial one. Zyphoid Excalibur. I know a lot of people are divided on this thing. So the Excalibur core is a gimmick to where once you get to 2 locks, this comes out like this. That's the whole core gimmick. After 2 clicks, the metal sword pops out for weight distribution, I guess. No, I don't like this gimmick. It's not that the gimmick itself is a bad thing, it's just that it completely made the design suck. Some people like Zyphoid's design, but I think most people will agree that it probably could have been better. And I think the reason why it was so kind of just mid is because they wanted to fit in this stupid gimmick that, to me, it's kind of cool thematically, but at the same time, restructuring the entire design to be this weird diagonal thing that just doesn't look that good, not a good move. The Zyphoid blade has no gimmicks, but honestly I don't even care that much because it's such a good blade that it didn't even matter. One armor makes perfect sense. The Xanthus disc I think also was a pretty good choice. Also references Magnum, was the first BU disc to, you know, kind of have metal and plastic, just like Magnum was the first disc ever to have metal and plastic. That was pretty cool. Also uses the BU locks, the first of its kind, has a set of U locks, although Belial 2, the remake of it anyway from Divine, you know, like the mold 2 of it, it had BU locks before we knew what they were, but still, the first one to actually have advertised BU locks, I guess. And the first BU lock disc, so overall, pretty cool. Sword Dash kind of sucked. Thematically, I kind of get it, but at the same time, it just sucks so bad. And I think, even, like, just in general, I just kind of would have rather had them go crazier with, like, you know, Extreme. And if they weren't going to do Extreme, I think Iron Dash really could have used, you know, a Dash version. Well, Iron could use a Dash version. Iron Dash, there we go. That's the proper way to say it. But, I don't know. Sword just feels kind of awkward, and I don't think it's kind of, I don't know, yeah, it just feels awkward, honestly. But I guess thematically it's, like, kind of okay. My main problem is just how they had to restructure this entire thing to fit a pretty pointless gimmick into it. I don't like that. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of Excalibur, honestly, just because I know it could have been seriously, like, insane, but they just didn't do that because they wanted a gimmick that, who cares, you know, just ruined the design, in my opinion, and it's unfortunate. It's not like a terrible bay or anything, it's just kind of, eh. And Excalibur should never be described like that, in my opinion. Next up, Zest Achilles. Zest Achilles, okay. This is another controversial one, because it's basically just Astral Spriggan, kind of. Achilles core has 2 sets of BU locks, cool. These were heavily underutilized. I will talk more about BU locks later, when we talk about BU as a whole, so... yeah. Does have 2 of them, though, cool. It's an LR core. A lot of people seem to not like Achilles being LR, they say it stole from Spriggan. I personally don't care, because here's the thing, right? If Achilles was not LR, the only thing that would change is that Achilles would just spin right, no left, and then the underneath of Zest would just not exist. That's it. That'd probably be the only difference of Zest, so I really don't care that it's LR. The Zest Blade, I don't like how thin this thing is. I wish they'd put a little bit more effort into it. The attachment gimmick, still fine. I just wish they would make the base blade actually good, because it makes the attachment gimmick look bad when it's not good, and it's not good. I like how they did the attachment, though, kind of having, you know, attack mode when it's on top, you know, defense mode when it's on bottom, opposite in left spin, but yeah. Cool gimmick. I like how they did the attachment this time, way more than, you know, Union and Infinite, so that's pretty cool. But yeah, it's kind of just, I wish the Zest Blade, the base blade, looked a little better and was a little bit thicker. Parts, illegal, oh yeah, 4 illegal and Quattro Dash 4. Sure, no really points about it, I guess. It just kind of exists. It's a new armor, cool. Illegal round disc, I think this works fine. For Achilles, sure. Quattro Dash, okay, this is a weird one, because I do not like Quattro Dash on Achilles. But they just re-released High Extend Plus Dash on Raphael. Kind of understand why they didn't want to do it here. Why not just do Dimension? Like Metal Dimension, Dimension Dash, whatever. Extend or Dimension or just a new driver would have made way more sense here. I don't like how they did Quattro. So yeah, the driver here, as good of a driver as Quattro Dash is, it just does not make sense thematically at all for Achilles. And I think a lot less people would complain if it did not have Quattro Dash. Even if you want to say it's a Spriggan clone because of LR. Again, if it didn't have left spin, it would have been the same exact bay, just without the left spin stuff. It would have not been much different. So, I'm not really complaining about that. I just think that the driver should have been something else. Design-wise, it's alright, honestly. I like this way more in pictures, but it still looks pretty cool, I guess. Just the driver choice, really, and the blade, I guess, kind of, as well. Alright, Wind Knight. This is not a bay I would have expected to show up in BU, but it did show up in BU. So, yeah, okay. The Knight core references Deep Chaos, technically, by the vertical bound. Pretty underrated stamina type, I would say. Nice to bring that back for this gimmick. The Wind Blade, very thick blade, very large, just a very big blade in general, I guess. Very round, it makes sense based on Air Knight, cool. They even added the whole airflow gimmick with, the upper force, down force stuff, which, well, not crazy. It was a cool addition to something like this. I like that a lot, actually. It's kind of a whatever gimmick, but I just think, again, thematically, it is perfect for something like this. The 6 armor, it's fine. I think 390, something like that, maybe even 10. That's debatable, I would say. 6 is okay, though. Some of those other ones would have been better, but whatever, it's fine. The Moon Disc, another BU lock disc. Oh yeah, also the Night Core has 4 BU locks, which is kind of insane. The Moon Disc being another BU lock disc, cool to get another one. Bounce, it's a new driver, but it's not good at all. I think Eternal would have made more sense here, or at least Eternal Dash or High Eternal. Bounce feels awkward. It feels more like a defense driver that just failed and tried to be a stamina driver and just also failed. I don't know what it was doing, but outside of that, I think Wind Knight is a really, really nice bay. And the driver, they at least did something new, so I can't fault them too much for that. But still, a little bit unfortunate, but I do think Wind Knight ended up being probably one of the best BU bays, just as a whole at least, so pretty nice. I definitely like this one. Next up, Astral Hello Kitty. This is one of the two that I mentioned earlier, kind of noting that it was debatable to whether or not it's mainline. I'll talk about it anyway. They just made it kind of an Astral Spriggan clone. I think that's fair. Making it a clone, not making it its own bay. I think Astral is a pretty good one to base it on. Got the LR with Astral. Kind of, flippable blade, that's cool. Metal rubber, nice. Over and Zero are both great parts, so not much to complain about there. They did swap out Quattro for Revolve Dash, though. I honestly don't mind this. It's not like I needed Quattro, and I think, Revolve Dash, pretty cool. Nice enough part. And the Hello Kitty core is just a reskin of Spriggan 1 LR. That's nice. Not a whole lot to say about this as a combo. It's more so just cool to see a Beyblade based on Hello Kitty. And as a Beyblade that's cool to just see based on it, I think they did a great job. A great color scheme. Nice that they actually made a unique core for it. Even if it's just kind of a reskin, it's still just cool to see. So, yeah, cool bay. Alright, next up, Super Hyperion MR. I'm gonna not talk about the Super MR blade yet. Helios core was unfortunate. They did nothing with this aside from give it BU locks, 3 of them. Why? Yeah, it's 2 BU locks, my bad. 2 BU locks. So they gave it 2. I don't know why they didn't do anything else with this core. They really should have put metal on this to reference Hyperion 2. Big missed opportunity there. The 2 armor works fine. I think, Hyperion, it needed to have probably the 2 armor, so makes sense. Tapered? No. No, this did not need tapered. That was a really dumb choice of a disc for an attack type. Again, maybe Dragon could get away with something like that, but, not Hyperion. Literally, I think any other disc would have made way more sense for Hyperion. This did not. I think it should have had, at least, do Legacy or something on this thing. But, I don't know, it just needed something else. Explosion, though. This is a really cool driver. Feels like kind of a beefed up version of Exceed. So yeah, pretty cool overall. We'll come back to the blade, though. King Helios MR. Again, we'll come back to the blade in a second, but Helios Core, same deal, 2 BU locks, and no gimmicks. Should have had metal to reference Helios 2 from Sparking. 10 armor makes sense. It kind of had the whole 5-sided thing and the 10-sided thing going on back in Sparking. So giving it the 10 armor makes sense. Parts, Giga and Zeal. So Giga, yeah, I would say Giga makes sense. I was thinking over, but nah, Giga's fine. And Zeal kind of feels like a new driver entirely. It doesn't really feel like it kind of fits in with something like, Exceed, Explosion, and Zone, but it doesn't exactly feel like a direct Zone upgrade. But that's fine, honestly. I like this driver a lot. I think it works well with Helios. I guess it just kind of makes it a more unique driver. And I feel like expanding on Zone is hard when Zone Dash plus Z exists. So I feel like going in a new direction with another pretty cool driver, a good move, honestly. And I'll talk about the blades together here. Super MR, King MR, all the Super King blade stuff. Yeah, no, that's great. One side metal, one side rubber. You can mix and match any given thing with them. You could even get a duplicate of just one side, and it matches up fine. There's 10 things you could do with these, 10 different combinations. That's crazy. And they're completely unrestricted for left and right spin, which is really cool. I know this is kind of stealing Eclipse's gimmick, but at the same time, these beys should have just been kind of like Eclipse from the start. I think having them be brothers and always being double battles with each other, it made a lot of sense to do this. So, really cool gimmick, and I think these beys on their own without this are both cool. Just not that crazy, but I think looking at them as a pair, they are pretty crazy and very, very cool. Alright, next up, the BU version of Ultimate Valkyrie. The other kind of weird bey that I wasn't sure whether to consider mainline or not, but I am. So, I guess you could argue maybe they could have softened up the rubber here or added BU locks on the Valkyrie 2, but they didn't have to, and they didn't. That's fine. I think the redesign of Valkyrie 2 and Ultimate, though, looks really, really nice. So that's a plus. Looks better than the original, in my opinion. Reuses the 9 armor, makes perfect sense. But then the parts. Wing Dash and Excel Dash. I don't really mind Wing Dash that much because... yeah. I think they just kind of did an alternate look at Legacy, referencing other discs. Makes perfect sense to me. Nothing wrong with that. So I like Wing Dash. Excel Dash, a little bit split on. I think Variable Dash was a little bit more understandable thematically. Would have rather just seen them use Evolution Dash here, but can't complain too much here, I don't think. I think with Ultimate Valkyrie, they really wanted kind of to go back to basics, since Valkyrie, never has really been known for any consistent gimmicks, so I think that made sense. So in that regard, I think Excel Dash is kind of understandable. Still would have rather seen something else, but it's not that bad. Overall, though, I do like this better than the original just because of the layer design, honestly. But yeah. Pretty cool disc overall, though, for a new disc. I didn't think it'd be as good, but no, I like it more Legacy. And the base is definitely great overall. The driver's the only point of contention, in my opinion, so yeah. Next up, Burst Spriggan. Oh boy, this is a very, very controversial one, I would say. The Spriggan 2 core looks way, way better than Spriggan 1. Also, just the red on this bey looks way better than Astral's. I don't know what happened, but I do not like Astral Spriggan's red. But yeah, they added metal again, just like Astral. They put the rubber, more rubber this time, and actually white, not whatever Astral was doing. They also added kind of a burst resistor, like a little burst resistor tab type of thing in here, which is nice. Has the flippable blade to be LR, the course LR, also has 3 BU locks. It's overall just a really, really good layer. 8 armor, references, the axes, really cool armor, I would say. It's all, like, overall, yeah, it's just a really good bay. But the only problems I have with the layer, basically, it's just that I wish that they would have maybe put some metal on the core here. That's really all I can ask for, but yeah. Everything else, they did a great job with. Then there's the parts. Spread dash. Okay, as a disc, I don't mind spread dash. It's a really cool disc, but Spriggan has definitely been known for its gimmicks, unlike Valkyrie. I would have much rather had them make a third BU lock disc here. I think maybe something based on zero wall, but with like a free spin, like 2 balance, would have been perfect. But they didn't do it. They really should have done a BU lock disc here, and they did not, which is unfortunate, but yeah, I don't know. Driver, Fusion Dash, no. This was a bad choice. Should have been Quattro Dash, easily. Overall, though, I like this bay a lot, just based on the layer, and the disc is still cool. It's really just the driver that holds the thing back, which is honestly unfortunate, but yeah. Regardless, I do like Burst Spriggan quite a bit, but man, the driver choice really, really just hinders it so much. And it would have been nice to see a better disc as well, but oh well. The layer is definitely a big upgrade from Astral, in my opinion, so I am very happy about that at the very least, because I did not like Astral nearly as much as I thought I was going to. And then there's the final bay. Barricade Lucifer. I'm not going to talk about this as a final release, though. I'm just going to talk about the bay itself. Lucifer Course 3 BU locks, cool. No other gimmicks. Massive L. Both Lucifer 1 and Lucifer 2 in Sparking had metal. Lucifer 2 also had a rubber stopper. This should have had metal at the very minimum. Rubber would have been nice, but like, the fact that this has no metal is just really sad. 10 armor makes perfect sense for Lucifer. The Barricade Blade, referencing, the 2 defense barrier, and it's kind of a new way, I think, was perfect. Great choice. The parts are illegal and bearing Mobius. I think illegal was a little bit of a weird choice for Lucifer. Would have expected something a little bit more rugged, I guess. Maybe like a Giga or something. Or I was thinking Fortress. But honestly, illegal is still a good choice overall. It makes sense, so I'm fine with that. Bearing Mobius kind of would have expected Drift, but I think Bearing Mobius is still a pretty cool part, so I'm not mad about that. That's actually fine. So I think Barricade Lucifer is a pretty good bay. It's really just the core I have a problem with, honestly. I don't know why they didn't make a better core with, more gimmicks. I think in terms of, like, appearance and stuff, it looks great. This layer is phenomenal looking, but, like, if they just could have added on the core, like, anything to the core, like, just a little bit of metal, like, even just this, like, center, like, circle piece here, anything like that would have added so much to this bay. They just didn't do it, which is unfortunate. But I think Barricade Lucifer is still overall, like, a really good bay. It's just, like, that little thing really holds it back from being, like, one of the best of the line. At least in my opinion, anyway. So, there you go. Let's look at every single bay. So now let's talk about some of the other stuff, which is a little bit more fun, I think. So, let's go ahead and get into that. Alright, so I have all these bays now spread out. There you go, you can see all the BU bays. So, as a line, how good is this line? I'm mixed on it. I think overall they did a great job picking good motifs. Kind of. Well, okay, maybe that's a little bit debatable, but yeah, I think Valkyrie and Hello Kitty are more bonuses here, but like another Spriggan, like another Belial, and then also like Knight and Lucifer over like something like Death Scyther and Wyvern. I don't know if I agree with that. But just again, I'm not looking. I guess I shouldn't look at that like that because that's more of a final burst season type of argument there. We'll save that. But I think overall these bays all look pretty good. Even like Gatling being my least favorite, looks pretty good. I think yeah they did a great job on the designs. I think thematically, like pretty much all of these layers, I would say, are pretty good. Only exceptions are really like, I guess kind of Gatling, kind of Zest. Only one I don't really like though is Excalibur. I think they should have done better there. But yeah, overall they're pretty good. Part selection varies, I would say. That's pretty debatable. I just talked about all of them. I'm not going to go into each individual one again, but yeah. I think the part selection was kind of iffy. But I think as a line, it was still like a pretty good line. Like they did a pretty good job. Like if you look at any line, there's always some duds, and I think this line, there wasn't really a single bay that I just fully disliked. You know, that's actually kind of impressive, I would say. I guess I don't usually like dislike bays, but like everything here had like a certain level of quality at the very least. And I can't say that for most lines. So, let's get into probably the biggest just kind of missed opportunity here for the line, and that is the BU locks. They weren't really something that was like crazy, but I think they could have maybe expanded on the BU locks, maybe had some kind of like limit break type of gimmick to tie in with them if they really wanted to. But if not, they put a lot of BU locks on cores, right? The only cores in this picture that do not have BU locks are Kirbyus, Dragon, and Hello Kitty. That's it. All 9 other cores here. Oh yeah, and Valkyrie. I forgot about Valkyrie. So 4 of them. And Hello Kitty and Valkyrie, they are both more so extras, I guess you could say. And Kirbyus and Dragon just probably didn't have them because they were earlier in Burst. I guess that kind of falls apart when you mention, Belial 2 had them, but it's Belial. I kind of figure they would want to do something like that, for the main bay, but whatever. But still, like, all 8 of the other bays included BU locks, Excalibur has a set. Knight, Hyperion, Helios, they all have like 2. Or wait. Okay, I just lost my train of thought with this. Whatever. I already said how many BU locks they all have. It doesn't actually matter restating them all now. I don't know why I just blanked. I'm not going to try and figure that out. Oh, they all, like, 8 of them have them, right? Okay, that's all we need to know. So, a lot of cores have them. We only got 2 discs. Only 2 discs to compensate for that. How? How are you only going to release Xanthus and Moon as the BU lock discs? Not a third one. You can't even make a full deck out of these. Why release so many cores that support these when there's not enough discs to support them? You can argue just for the sake of compatibility, but at the same time, why not make more of them? In my opinion, outside of maybe Fortress, because it was like earlier in BU, every other disc should have been a BU lock disc if they wanted to actually make this seem like an important gimmick or something for the line to make it stand out more from, DB. Maybe you could have argued illegal doesn't need it, but like the Valkyrie Spriggan set, come on, those should have been 2 BU lock discs right there. Base them on Zenith, and again, like a mix of Zero Wall and 2 Balance. There you go. There should not have been only 2. That it's actually kind of ridiculous. Again, as a whole line, it's pretty good. It's just that was such a missed opportunity in general. Alright, now let's talk about this kind of as an addition to DB. How good is this, as an addition to DB? I would say this was a great addition to DB, with an asterisk, because there is a little bit of a problem, but I think overall, as an extension to DB, we got a lot more stuff that we actually needed. Again, kind of a retooled Ultimate Valkyrie and Astral Hello Kitty bonuses. The other 10, though, we got the rest of the protagonists. That's cool. Gatling Dragon, Zest Achilles, Super Hyperion MR, King Helios MR, great. And we also probably got 2 of the most wanted bays back that have been missing in action for like 4 years now. Chain Kirbyus and Zyphoid Excalibur. Great. But still, like, we also, I would say Wind Knight and Barricade Lucifer were nice surprises to see, Lucifer, I could have seen it happening, but it wasn't like an immediate thing that I would have thought of. Wind Knight was just a cool surprise, another stamina type which BU, or not BU, but DB did not have many of. And we really haven't got many stamina types in general for a few seasons now, so nice to see another one here. But we already had 2 Belials in DB, and also 2 Valkyries, so that there were already a couple bases that had a couple evolutions, but then you give us Burst Spriggan. I'll be honest, I like Burst Spriggan more than Astral Spriggan, especially if they could have just, thrown, Quattro Dash onto this thing. Would have been completely better, but whatever. But we did not need 2 Spriggans in this line, I'm gonna be honest, right? We didn't need both. I think just take Burst and swap out the driver with Astrals. There you go, it's easily a superior DB Spriggan. And then Belial. Belial, like I said, it's a weird pick to me. I think as a whole, I wish they would have just taken out Dangerous. But still, we did not need 3 Belials. I think as an expansion to DB, this was a great expansion. It just gave us more bays, it gave us a lot of good choices. But there were just some things that we didn't, again, you do not need 3 of one bay in a single line. Take out Dangerous, right? We didn't need that. And then again, we didn't even need 2 Valkyries and 2 Spriggans. Savior sucks, just keep Ultimate. Keep the retooled version if you want as well. And then just take Burst, give it Astral Striver, and just throw away Astral and Fusion Dash. I'm not saying Savior Valkyrie and Astral Spriggan were terrible or anything, it's just that we didn't really need them. Same with Dangerous Belial, we didn't need it. Hell, I would have just taken 1 Belial. I think Divine was easily the best Belial. I would have just taken that, but you know what, I get why there's 2. That's fine. But again, I think as an expansion to DB, they did a great job, so yeah, I have problems with it, but let's just move on. It's still pretty good, I would say. They definitely pulled off some pretty nice choices. But then we get to the last question where I get to be a little bit more harsh. Was this a good end to Burst? No. I can't say it was. Not entirely, at least. Every choice here, or at least most of them, I think make sense. Again, Hello Kitty and Valkyrie, cool, but like I already said, don't need 3 Belials, don't need 2 Spriggans, but I would have been fine with these. Same with Lucifer and Knight. I think they were cool surprises, but they just took away from bays that actually should have gotten evolutions, in my opinion. There are definitely bays that should have gotten evolutions over Knight and Lucifer. Those should have been included over them in this, line. But with those 4 bays that I find kind of controversial, and even, going backwards to, Astral Spriggan even, or something. Or not Astral, I guess, I just have a second. Never mind, that was a dumb idea. Whatever, just these 4 bays, second Spriggan, I guess going back to Savior Valkyrie, that's probably what I meant to say. But yeah. As an end to Burst, having 2 Valkyries and 2 Spriggans I kind of get, though. So it's a little bit up in the air right there, but the main problem is that this is the final line of Burst. They should have just gotten to 30 bays. It should have been the biggest line. Give all of the prevalent bays that needed it an evolution. Finish the Legends is kind of the main thing here, right? You could have given us another surprise, maybe if you did extra bays, especially if there was a third line, you could have thrown in, I don't know, Kronos, Ifrit, Hades, Apocalypse, stuff like that. But I think the main thing is just, there were 6 Legends left. You could have definitely squeezed in 6 extra bays between DB and BU. That's not a challenge. There were no releases in January, February, or March of 2022. And then also, outside of April 2021, October 2021, and then I guess October and November 2022, maybe September if you want to count Hello Kitty, but most months just had 1 bay. You could have had some of those months have 2 bays. You could have had the August set come with a second bay. Just make a triple booster set instead. There was definitely enough room to include those. I think Satan being skipped over isn't the biggest deal, but I think, for completing the Legends, it should have been thrown in at least somewhere. A lot of people really wanted a Zeus evolution, and again, there aren't a lot of stamina types. It would have been great to include. Where was Diablos? Death and Abyss suck. they really should have gotten another evolution. You made 4 LR cores, none of them being Diablos. Really needed an evolution. Also, the one antagonist they skipped was Genesis, one of the coolest bays. Would have been great to see it back. And probably the 2 biggest problems I have are just Death Scyther and Wyvern not getting evolutions. Looking at the Beyblade Burst election from 2020, Wyvern came in 8th. It beat out a lot of bays that showed up in BU, including Knight. Yeah, it was up there. Also, Death Scyther got 3rd place, only being beat by Excalibur and Valkyrie. Yet things like Spriggan that came in 7th got 2 evolutions, and Death Scyther just doesn't even show up. That's kind of my biggest problem with this as a final season, is just the lack of base that we got. I think everything we got was really good for the most part. And again, getting some of these bays like, 2 Spriggans or whatever, would have been fine. It seriously would have been fine if we just got, the proper base that we should have gotten. There should not have been this exclusion of things like Death Scyther and Wyvern. They really need to just add in a few extra bays to kind of pad out the line and make it feel like a proper final system. And this honestly would have been a perfect end. And I think in some ways you could still say it's the best end of Burst, but at the same time, I don't know, I agree with that. Like, I think Sparking was kind of almost a better ending to Burst, I'm gonna be honest. That's a little bit debatable, I would say, but like, if Sparking just had a couple extra bays, I think it would have been right there with it, but I guess the same thing could be said for DB, but whatever. I just think that they did not really nail this as a final line. They did a good job, I think, for the most part, with like everything that they did make, but I just can't say it's good because they just missed a lot of really obvious choices. Again, how do you miss Death Scyther and Wyvern of all bays? And there really weren't many other bays that needed it, so I just think that they should have. Again, they were so close. They were so close to making this like a perfect end. They just missed it. And that's why, honestly, I made that video a couple months ago and talk about like a 3rd-year BU. Because even though I kind of didn't think it would happen, and I was more so just hoping it would, it kind of just, I feel like based on the amount of slots we got for DB and BU, we kind of needed that 3rd-year DB to really make it feel like a great final line, and they just didn't do it. And that's honestly unfortunate, because there's a lot of potential here for a good final line. This was, like, every bay that they, put out, I think, again, like I said, no single bay felt fully bad, and I think just the DB system itself was a great final system, so I just wish they could have done that. But I feel like I'm going to talk in circles, so I keep talking about that, but yeah. So overall, how do I think BU was, as a line, with everything taken into account? The bays, just the kind of general, idea of BU, the idea of it being like an extension as well, and then also as a final system. I would give it probably a 7.5 out of 10. It's pretty good. The bays, they did a great job on the bays. The BU line was great. It extends, DB pretty well too. And it just could not finish DB. It just couldn't finish Burst, in my opinion. And that's like kind of the main thing holding it back. But again, as a whole, as a whole for the line, I give it like a 7.5 out of 10. It's still pretty good. So that's kind of just everything. So that's my whole, basically like a whole damn analysis of BU. I did not expect this to be this long of a video, but here we are. So yeah, that's how I think BU went. Hopefully that answers the question I put in the title. It's pretty good, but again, just some missed opportunities, and some pretty bad missed opportunities, I would say, and yeah. So that's that. I will continue to do some Beyblade discussions over time on various other topics, and probably like January, February, I will put out a kind of a final, not final Beyblade Burst video, but like a final look at Beyblade Burst as a whole. Just giving it some time to be sure Burst is fully done, just in case. So yeah, that's everything for this video. So, yeah. Thanks for watching, and bye-bye.